I think all of the pieces of what Marvel Studios is planning to do with the X-Men in the MCU and how they're going to begin their story in the MCU, all of those pieces are starting to come together, and we're going to see some of them come together in Spider-Man Brand New Day. On top of that, Sony apparently is now open to sharing characters with Marvel Studios. What is going on, Cosmic Crew? Thanks for stopping by the channel today. A lot of Spider-Man news to go over, and as you can see, the future of Spider-Man might be looking incredibly bright. Not that it wasn't before, but now we're talking not just Spider-Man, but a universe that really we have wanted for a long time. And this is great news because this might lead to literally the exact universe that Marvel Studios has always wanted. Now they have the X-Men. They didn't have the X-Men before. They didn't have the Fantastic Four before. So for the entirety of the Infinity Saga, and actually really for most of the Multiverse Saga as well, we only got the Avengers, right? But now they have Fox and they have all the characters that came with Fox, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, etc. What's missing is Spider-Man characters. Now we have Spider-Man in the MCU, of course. But we've heard so many stories about Sony getting in the way and saying, no, you can't use this character. No, you can't use this character. No, you can't use this character. And then kind of flipped that a little bit. Sony originally wanted Tom Holland's Spider-Man to appear in the Venom films, and Marvel said no because they didn't want to confuse the audiences with the universes, which if you're Marvel, yeah, you don't want people thinking that the Sony Spider-Man universe is the MCU. I totally get where they're coming, but now if Sony and Marvel work together and they can just have everything in the MCU, that is literally the perfect universe that Marvel and I think all of us fans would actually like. And it sounds like Spider-Man Brand New Day is that first step. There's a ton of villains reportedly going to be in this film. Of course, Sony has to sign off on those villains, or I should say most of them. And according to Daniel RPK, Sony is now open to sharing the characters. So I think Sony probably just finally realized, since they shut down their Spider-Man universe, remember they announced that they really weren't doing anything anymore. They weren't moving forward after like Madam Web and Morbius and movies like that. I think they've now realized that they can just make more money letting Marvel just use these characters, putting them in movies, getting paid from Marvel, getting paid from the box office partially. They'll make more money than their movies made because their movies were not making money. The only, I think, really big ones were the Venom movies, and then of course the Spider-Verse movies, in which the last one is about to come out. But I will say something very interesting that comes along with all of this is a lot of people have actually noticed that Caleb McLaughlin has suddenly taken up acrobatics now that Stranger Things is over, and he looks pretty dang good. A lot of people are starting to think, hey, what if he's Miles Morales? Kevin Feige literally said Miles can come to the MCU. Beyond the Spider-Verse has to happen first, but that comes out in between Doomsday and Secret Wars, so perhaps Miles is coming to the MCU in Secret Wars. Perhaps it's Caleb McLaughlin, who has been a really big fan cast for the role. So big future, big bright future coming up there with Sony and Marvel. Hopefully, it sounds like, and it looks like based on everything we know for Spider-Man Brand New Day, that's actively happening. Now, I find this one kind of funny. This report is really funny to me. We're talking about Sadie Sink's character. This report is funny to me because this is how the report goes. Sadie Sink's character has similar powers to Jean Grey's in Spider-Man Brand New Day. Her character also wears Jean Grey's colors of yellow and green. And Sadie Sink has red hair like Jean Grey does. This is really funny to me because it's kind of like, if it looks like crap, smells like crap, tastes like crap, it's crap. Well, if she looks like Jean Grey, if she has Jean Grey's powers, if she's wearing Jean Grey's colors, she's Jean Grey. Kind of basically just seems like that's who she is. And that's coming from My Time to Shine. Hello. There is, of course, I would say a small possibility that she could play like Hope or Rachel Summers, in which I think if they did connect that to Doomsday, that would be really cool, but that's not what I think that they're doing. I love the idea of it, but I think really Sadie Sink is going to be playing Jean Grey. Of course, that's not confirmed, but it does make sense, especially, and here's the big part, if you consider what Marvel Studios is doing right now. They are setting up the mutants in a really big way, or at least a really big story point for the mutants in Wonder Man and in Spider-Man Brand New Day, and that comes down to the DODC. If you've seen the recent Wonder Man trailers, they've talked about how they're making actors sign forms that make them pledge and make them promise they are not superheroes. They don't have any superpowers. So it looks like society is cracking down on superpowered individuals. What we've heard about Spider-Man Brand New Day is that the DODC is hunting people that have superhuman abilities. And they're doing experiments on them in the dark, illegally, with no jurisdiction looking over them. Apparently, there's a mysterious character out there in the shadows who I'm thinking could be maybe Bolivar Trask. We're unsure at this point in time. But that is what is reportedly going to be happening in Spider-Man Brand New Day. And I think Sadie Sink right now, since she's coming off of Stranger Things, is just a humongous star. And Marvel is looking for the future of the MCU, which we know is the X-Men. And we know that they're already working on the X-Men film, which means they probably have the actors that they want and are going to put in the movie already pegged down. And Sadie Sink is probably Jean Grey, in my opinion, not confirmed, of course, but it does make sense. They probably have their Cyclops in mind too, because Jean Grey and Scott, right? So everything really is pointing to Jean Grey, or to Sadie Sink being Jean Grey in this. I think she is, but let me know your thoughts. Now, when it comes to the Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer, a lot of people have been asking about this because Spider-Man comes out before Doomsday. We have a lot for Doomsday so far. We have 4 trailers for Doomsday so far, and it looks like we're getting 4 more. We have nothing for Spider-Man Brand New Day yet. The trailer did leak, though. We did see that. And here's what we are hearing now. Sony is working on a new trailer for Spider-Man Brand New Day. The tentative dates to release the trailer are perhaps this month or during the Super Bowl, but it sounds like if they do something during the Super Bowl, it'll be a teaser, maybe like a 30-second TV spot that says full trailer online or full trailer coming in a few days, right? Studios have been kind of doing that. Like if you think back to the release of Superman, they did like a teaser before the teaser, basically saying, hey, here's when the trailer's coming. I think they actually did a few like, hey, the trailer's hitting this day, very tiny tease, then did the next day like a teaser for the teaser, then finally the teaser dropped. Might be getting something like that for Spider-Man as well during the Super Bowl. But sounds like they're redoing the teaser trailer because everybody basically saw what the original teaser trailer was going to be. And it did look really cool. It did have some classic comic book covers brought to live action, brought to real life in the trailer, which I was really excited for. And I got sent a pretty good quality version of that trailer to me. I obviously couldn't put it online, but yeah, it was a pretty dang good looking trailer. Hopefully they don't change too much, but since everybody saw it, since it did leak, they are reportedly going to change some of it. Now, here's where we find out a little bit more about what Spider-Man Brand New Day is going to be about. And according to Daniel RPK, Venom is reportedly set to be introduced in the next Tom Holland Spider-Man trilogy. Now, that doesn't specifically say that he's going to be introduced in Spider-Man 4 and Spider-Man Brand New Day, but in the trilogy in general. I'm still thinking that Spider-Man gets the symbiote in Secret Wars. That's actually a report that we've been hearing a lot of recently, and that's when he gets the symbiote for the first time, gets the black suit for the first time in the comics as well during Secret Wars. So that makes sense. It makes sense the RUSSO brothers would want to do that. But now, after hearing everything that we've just talked about with Sony, yeah, it makes sense that we're finally going to get Venom in the MCU. Plus, they set that up at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home. They set it up at the end of the last Venom film. Sorry, not the last one, even though I do think the last one did kind of set it up. But at the end of Let There Be Carnage, Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock and Venom came to the MCU. Spider-Man No Way Home kind of reversed that, but it's been planned for a while now. And now that Sony is going to kind of play ball with Marvel Studios, maybe we'll finally get that Sinister Six movie we've been waiting for. If I had to guess, it's probably going to be the 6th Spider-Man movie. And we know that Sony has been working on their own Sinister Six movie that now apparently they've canceled. So to put that in the MCU now, I think would make a lot of sense. And Spider-Man Brand New Day seems to be adding a lot of characters who could go on to become a part of the Sinister Six. And we already have Kingpin with Daredevil Born Again, and the Punisher is in Spider-Man Brand New Day. A lot of things are really crossing over and they're really just starting to make sense now. I think the future of Spider-Man is becoming more clear, and the future of the X-Men. Now, one big thing that I do want to end with is the theory that Tom Holland might die at the end of Spider-Man Brand New Day. This is a very interesting theory. It certainly would be a shocker, a big shocker, and it would explain why he's not in why he's not in Avengers Doomsday. But then the symbiote grabs him and brings him back to life. I like this idea-ish. I don't know how I really feel about it, to be perfectly honest, because it would be really hard to watch Tom Holland Spider-Man die, and it just wouldn't be happy, right? And I think they would have to tease the symbiote in the movie after he died to say, hey, he's going to return. It would be kind of crazy if we got like a little post-credit scene that says Tom Holland will not return at the end of Avengers Doomsday and he dies in Brand New Day. That would be actually pretty crazy. And then we see him return in Secret Wars. That would be insane. That would be definitely a very strategic move. But this rumor's been going around a lot, or this theory's been going around a lot, and I could see it happening. And it would make sense because he's not, at least as far as we know so far, in Avengers Doomsday. Tobey Maguire's said to be in it, but he's not. And it also makes sense that Sadie Sink, if she is playing Jean Grey, she wouldn't be in Doomsday, but would also be in Secret Wars. And then when we move on to the new universe, this new reset universe, she becomes the new Jean Grey. That's what I think is going to happen. But let me know your thoughts about all of this in the comments down below. Regardless, it does look like the future of Spider-Man as a character and the franchise and the X-Men as well is looking pretty dang good right now. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest Spider-Man and Marvel news. And you can find us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Snapchat. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.